Hello, patrons and YouTube members. Thank you again for all of your support. This week's, Get to Know Doug video, we're going to talk about another video game series, but a very, very different one, and that is, of course, Star Wars Battlefront. Now, if y'all have seen my little, Steam tag of now playing, you will see that I play Star Wars Battlefront quite a bit. I love the game. It's just so much fun for me, and it's a great way to relax, and so I kind of wanted to talk about it today. We'll move away from video games next week, I promise. My first exposure to Star Wars Battlefront was way back in the day with the initial game. This one the graphics were terrible, but it had so many cool things about it, like the idea of just being a nobody, right? A goon, a stormtrooper, or clone or whatever, trying to use different classes to be able to outsmart your enemy and that kind of stuff. It was just so much stinking fun. And so the game has really evolved quite a bit, edition to edition. Star Wars Battlefront 1 was interesting because you could actually use sky vehicles in the same map as foot soldiers. So you can get into a bomber and then do strafing runs and put bombs on the ground. They weren't terribly good, but you could do it. But then you kind of introduced stuff in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the old one, the classic one, I should say, where you started to have different mechanics. Sky battles were now their own separate thing, so you couldn't just fly ships around the map anymore. But you did have a lot more options when it came to units and weapons and things like that. And they also introduced heroes. Heroes in a very specific way where you could earn them. They would regenerate health based on if they took out enemies. All kinds of stuff, and so it really favored a lot of aggressive playstyles. You had all your classic Star Wars heroes in there, and they could really turn the tide of the battle if given the chance. It also introduced a heroes only mode where it's you versus just literally every hero in the game, which is so freaking fun. Because it's just madness. It's just all of the best abilities that the game designers could come up with and then just thrown into a pot. And I just remember it was the most fun you could have with Star Wars Battlefront. And in addition to that, there was also achievements. So if you earned the right achievements, you could take some of those hero weapons or abilities and put them on standard guys. My favorite was giving basically the Boba Fett rifle, the 3-shot bursts onto a basic guy. It was the coolest. But when I went to college, I actually stopped playing Star Wars Battlefront for quite a while. Not because I lost interest in it per se, but because I just didn't have time, and that's all it came down to. Is I was playing other stuff, and I was going to school and meeting my now wife, and so I just didn't really have a ton of time. Star Wars Battlefront, the new one by EA, came out, and I never really got into it even then. And then Star Wars Battlefront 2 by EA came out, and I knew that there was a complete disaster from the marketing campaign because of the way that it was incentivizing you to spend money for loot boxes and stuff. And I had no interest in that, so I kind of just let it pass by. Why do I want to sully the nostalgia that I have? But then at one point I bought a PlayStation and they gave me a copy for free. And so I was like, okay, we'll try it for free, not spending a coin on it. By that time, EA had pretty much already decided to let everything go. All of the purchasable stuff just kind of go for free. And so I thought that was really nice when I came in. It still has a thriving online community, and so that's why I play Star Wars Battlefront 2 so stinking much. So that brought me to the game that I'm playing now, but what do I like to do in Star Wars Battlefront 2? Well, my absolute favorite class to play is the Officer. If you don't know, the Officer is all about buffing his nearby units. So he doesn't have a personal entourage or anything like that, but he's really good at, I guess you can customize the different kind of buffs that he offers. You can have him basically reload everyone's weapons immediately, so it keeps everyone firing very consistently. He can give armor to folks nearby for a short amount of time, so everyone becomes more resilient. For my part, the one that I like to use the most is the one where he gives a shout and everyone in an aura radius around him, all of their special abilities like throwing grenades or, healing for some cases. There's all different kinds of special abilities you can customize on your trooper. All of those get refilled immediately. So if you are next to someone who's pulling out a bazooka and fire, and normally that would take them a solid minute and a half to recharge. This way it does so immediately. And that makes them extremely powerful because They also have a fantastic grenade that they can throw and it, like, blinds people temporarily. They can also like drop a turret that is not super powerful, but it sits there and it can guard a spot, offer more cover fire and distracting enemies. And so really what it is I play a support piece. And so I love it, to be honest with you. They rack up points very, very quickly in terms of like your final score within a game. You also, in the course of a battle, can't buy elite troops or heroes to use unless you've accrued some battle points, basically. And so accruing those very quickly with the officer is very easy. And so that's how you can then jump into different characters that you like to use. The gameplay is super fast, but it's also very tightly contained. Like the maps they're fairly wide open, but your path to victory is pretty heavily dictated. So like you can only go so far in a map once the mission starts. You have to capture a command point. When you do that, the next section of the map becomes available. It's always there, like, you know, graphically speaking, but you're just not allowed to walk there yet. And so I feel like it keeps a solid pace about not being overwhelming with the entire battlefield. At the same time, I always know exactly where I'm headed. It's a very linear, I have to capture one of these 2 points. And just like in the last Star Wars Battlefront 2, there's all different stuff that you can unlock. I love just playing around with the different combinations of upgrade cards or weapons. All the weapons have like little attachments now you can unlock. So if you if you use this sniper rifle and you kill 100 enemies, you get a better scope. It's optional, but you can put it on there. And each weapon has like 3 different upgrade things you can use. I love it. I love just playing around with weird combinations to see what you can get out of each weapon. And it makes playing the same class over and over again so much more fun than just having the same loadout all the time. Now, the only thing that I'm terrible at when it comes to Star Wars Battlefront is using lightsaber characters. I don't know why. It just, my brain just does not work that way. That third person, I was terrible at, what's that old video game from forever ago? The one where you're Kyle Katarn and you're like whipping around the Jedi Outcast 2, I think is what it is. I'm terrible at lightsaber fighting. I don't know why. It just never clicks for me. But there are tons of heroes that don't use lightsabers. Yeah, like Han Solo, Leia, Boba Fett. Bosk is another bounty hunter who is my absolute favorite. He has like all kinds of poisons and junk. He can set traps. All kinds of cool stuff. They're just wonderful, wonderful characters to use in every way. The only sad panda one that I think is Chewbacca. I hate using Chewbacca. He fires super slow. He doesn't do anything super fun. He's fine. But all in all, I think there's a good swath of characters to be able to use. If I do get into one of those factions, like say, I think it's the Resistance they call it from the newest Star Wars movies. I don't really know any of those characters. I watched, what is it? The first of the new ones with Rey and that kind of stuff. And I enjoyed that one, but I never went any further. So I don't actually know a lot of the characters at all. But man, that was a rough one to play in Battlefront 2 just because none of the characters are terribly fun. But all in all, I think it's a wonderful game. Like it's fast paced, but it's very manageable. It doesn't feel very overwhelming. And every character does a cool thing. And I don't know, there's just something about online games with a co-op feature, which this one does. So I love to play the co-op ones. You can dip in for like 10-15 minutes, crank out a game, and you're good to go. You get some experience, maybe unlock a weapon or something. I love that stuff. I just eat it right up because it's so fun when you find the right group of people. Like the computer just auto jams you into whatever mission, so you don't know who your like teammates are. But man, when you find the right group, it is so freaking fun when you and like 3 other avatars that have no way to communicate with one another just kind of know what you're all thinking. Whether it's like, holding that right spot that's super important when the computer's flooding over the hill, that kind of stuff where it's just like, we just know, right? People who know. And it feels really cool to be a part of something like that. Kind of had the same feeling, I guess, when I was younger. I used to play Team Fortress 2. That was quite a bit of fun. And on the note of the versus mode, there's a few different modes where it's like, not really free for all, you're always on teams, but Supremacy is one where there's 5 capture points on the map, you want to control 3 of them longer than your opponent does. That kind of stuff. I tend to not like PvP games that much, just because, you know, anytime there's a PvP game, people get really into it and they like try to power game and min-max and that kind of stuff, whatever that equivalent is in Battlefront. And for me, I'm much more casual than that, and I like working with people rather than against them. And so the nice thing about the supremacy and those different formats for mass players is I never really feel like I'm totally against everybody. Like, I have a team, and that helps quite a bit. You know, you can get that same dynamic of people just reading your mind about what you're doing at the right time with different players. So I have been playing more and more of that stuff online, and I've actually been really enjoying it. I think I had my best game the other day in terms of like the battle score, and I was just like so proud of myself. I was unreasonably happy and smug about it. I was just like, yeah, I'm an officer class, and I was super cool, and I took out these guys. I don't know, it just felt fun. So if nothing else, Battlefront 2 gets the thumbs up for introducing me to a side of player versus player that I actually like quite a bit. So that's huge. I mean, I didn't even really care to play against people in Mordheim just because I don't like playing against folks. But it just feels different when it's a team, I suppose. Maybe that's it. I like being on a team. Anyway, friends, if you'd like to hang out and play some Star Wars Battlefront 2, let me know. I would love to do that with you. Let me know your thoughts down below, or not. Is there any questions that you guys have for me as far as things that you'd like me to talk about that aren't necessarily video game related? Leave them in the comments down below. I'd love to respond to them and hang out with you guys more. So I'll see you next week with our next Get to Know You thing. Thank you so much, and you stay cool.